Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the He's on Fire podcast. I am your host for today, Jay Boldy.
He's on fire!
It is a sad day in Phoenix Suns history. We've gone through the emotions all off season and all of our lifetimes, if you want to put it that way. And the little sliver of hope that we had just got taken away today. So we're going to have a therapy session. We're going to talk about what we're going to do going forward and things to look forward to. I'll give some of my opinions and just sort of the breakdown that I see going forward with this team. So, if y'all want to, put in your inputs in the comments, I'll go through each and every single one of them, and we'll break it down accordingly. But thank you for joining. Again, I bet the last thing you want to see is Suns content. But we have a couple things to celebrate. One, a 30-year anniversary of the Purple Sunburst jerseys that we played in '93, and the jerseys look amazing. So I can't wait to see that. What's going on, Westville? Nice to see you. That's kind of where my head is at. I think we'll be better in the long run, and I'll break down some of the stuff that Gambo put out a little bit earlier. I'm sad too, Iverson, but I'm looking on the bright side of things. I think you kind of have to. We didn't necessarily get beat by any team when it came to trade talks, and like what sports media said were the better packages. Brooklyn didn't even accept those and kept us out of the conversation completely. So, even with the Toronto packages, the Memphis packages, the Boston one, so on and so forth, none of those were accepted. And at the end of the day, Kevin Durant stayed with the Brooklyn Nets and making amends. So, let's just start from the top. It happened around 8 o'clock this morning. It came out that this Nets front office and Kevin Durant sat down in LA and had a cordial meeting, and they decided together that they're going to move forward with the partnership and continue the relationship and try to run it back and get something positive out of this reign. KD took us on an emotional roller coaster. I said when all this first transpired, my biggest fear is KD, backing out or having to change a heart, and that's exactly what happened. What's up, Roy? How you doing, man? Are you ready for fucking football season, man? Are you excited to see Mariota take the reign? You think he's going to be solid? Let me know. So that happened. Obviously, that was really disappointing. Suns social media just blew up and was pointing fingers at everybody. James Jones at our front office, the Nets front office, KD, and all this stuff, So let's see what Gabriel says real quick. DraftKings made out like a bandit and all of this. I would have never. Yeah, I don't know why people were betting on this situation. Seemed really sus to me. I don't know. It seemed like a plot or whatever. What's going on, Sonia? How you doing tonight? So all that happened, and everybody was just kind of like losing their goddamn mind. And I'm sitting working, and I'm trying to put this all together for just for my mental health. And I was not disappointed. I'm kind of glad this is over. Clarity is the best thing to ever happen in this situation. I mean, now we know, and we didn't have to wait until training camp. So we, one, have a head start, and two, we know what we're going to do going forward. So now we have options to look at, and what Westville said right here, James Jones has a backup plan, and I have that feeling too. I don't think you dive into something going after a superstar without having a backup plan if it doesn't work out. And 29 other teams didn't get the chance to acquire KD, and KD ended up staying with the original team. So we didn't get outbid. We didn't get like outnumbered. It didn't seem like the Nets were taking KD's trade request seriously. Hitman, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in here. The door's still open for KD trade down the line. Yeah, I'll probably buy the trade deadline or not even trade deadline. January 15th, when trades open back up. That's possibly a time. I mean, who's to say that we still don't deal DA? But I don't know. I think they're going to try to go the full year, see how playoffs go. So the door definitely isn't shut, but dude, it's cracked open. So um, again, I'm disappointed. Of course, I would have loved to see KD in a Phoenix Suns uniform, especially with our new updated Sunburst purple jerseys. And it's obviously disappointing to have a top 10 NBA player all time come into your building and rep your team and possibly go after a championship. I would have loved to see that, but if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And sorry, I already forgot your name. Hitman. Like what Hitman said, like the door's not closed. I mean, who's to say that Kyrie doesn't play another like 30, 40 games and Ben Simmons is like a shell of himself, Like why would KD want to stay in that? And now he only has 3 years at that point, so it's a little more loose. So yeah, let's just get into like what to do going forward. Actually, if you guys can give me a couple seconds, I think Amin wants to hop in here. Um, send y'all's opinions in the comments and I'll address them. Give me 2 seconds, y'all. I'm sorry. This is very unprofessional for the listeners. But yeah, let's first talk about the whole Flex situation. Let's not kill Flex over this. I mean, this isn't his job. He's just reporting for what he heard. I think his sources are pretty reliable, considering he was on top of all this before anybody else. He never said that KD was going to be his son, but he did say if KD was going to be traded, he would have been a son. But the only two teams that were in contention for him were the Suns and the Nets. And what do you know? One of those options happened. So let's not kill Flex. He's just reporting on what he hears. He's just spreading the word. He has other shit to worry about. And let's just lay off of Flex because, we don't have any Suns inside besides guys like Gambo and maybe a handful of other guys around Twitter and all that. So Flex was kind of like our only, canal for information, like the Lakers and the Nets, they have like all these people and writers that are saying all this stuff. So let's lay off of Flex. Like what he said was 100% accurate. It came out that way, but the deal just didn't happen. So let's get into some of the Gambo tweets while we're waiting for Ahmed to join. Gambo first tweeted, the Phoenix Suns had multiple conversations with the Nets this offseason, but none in the last couple of weeks. The Suns were never out of it because they were never really in it. Nets were always insistent the return had to be better than better than what Utah got for Gobert. So that wasn't happening. So what Gambo says that basically Utah ruined everything for us. Or Minnesota, really, because they gave all those picks. And so I think James Jones kind of saw this as the Nets weren't taking this seriously, and he probably has a lot more insight than that. Let's get to what Hitman said. There's some. Hitman says, I'm a little disappointed as well, but I have no problem with the Suns running it back playing with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah, we played better with a chip on our shoulder and stuff to prove. Everyone's calling the Suns Luka's son and shit. And we have a lot to prove, and we're still a top 5 team in the league. And there's no need to doubt, I'm not a continuity guy at this point. I mean, we've seen it, and it hasn't gotten it done. So we just I want to see adjustments, at least on the bench side of things. like I know we can still make a splash during this free agency and trade talks. Um, hey, Amit, you there?
Hold on. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah,
on,
man.
man? How you doing?
What's good, man? How's been what's the vibe on the podcast so far?
Pretty lively. People are giving their inputs and stuff. We have a couple of new faces, and they're giving us some targets to hit. I was just starting the Gambo tweets because he's kind of like the only one that's put out anything about the situation.
I mean, so you know how I felt about Kevin Durant coming here. I felt like it would mess up the chemistry in some ways if we had to give up too much.
Yeah,
Um, so for me, running it back, I know a lot of people are like, we can't run it back, and I feel the same way that we can't run it back with this team unless we see some improvement. And I think the biggest X factor I think we have now is Dario Saric, right?
right.
Because everybody says he unlocks what campaign does. I agree with that. And I think we haven't seen any continuity from Landry Shamet. He hasn't played with this team for that long. He's played on like 4 or 5 different teams in 4 or 5 different years. You know what I
Right.
mean? So maybe 2 years in a row will give him something special. Um, and Mikal Bridges, like there was glimpses there of him being a borderline all-star player with pick and roll and just that mid-range game, and maybe there's improvement there. And then Aiden too, right? And I mean, if this trade never came up, and the Suns, let's say like we always said, like what if we flipped the 2 years, and let's say we lost in the second round the first year, and we lost in the finals the next year, we'd be looking at Aiden and being like, "Yo, boy, like let's go, let's go."
Right.
Aiden and Booker, right? I think
Yeah.
the biggest problem for the Suns and the biggest thing we have to overcome is CP3's playoff like failures. I think that's the biggest problem right now. I think we tried to overcome it with getting Durant, but that takes away, I think, too much of the identity of the team. At this point, I'm looking at it and going, let's look mid-season with the first round picks we have, and see if we can get Jordan Clarkson, Eric Gordon, um, even a Kyle Kuzma type player, somebody like that can make a difference. Like I don't think you have to go and like destroy your team to get the player that you really need. Um, and I said Kuzma off the top of my head. There's probably like 5 players better than Kuzma than I'm thinking of. Um, but it is what it is. I'm not going to hate on Flex. I never will. Dan Duarte, Flex are brothers of ours. So I
Mhm.
would just say, you know, Kevin Durant changed his mind. He got bullied by the owner, I would say. And this is what I said before is I thought that this whole thing came down to like this is kind of the biggest player empowerment movement, this particular move, because Kevin Durant being 34 with a 4-year contract is different than Anthony Davis being 25 or 26 with 2 years left on his deal, or a Carmelo with a 1 year left when he's like 24. Like this is different than all those deals. And the fact that they were trying to get the Rudy Gobert plus 20 deal on this, and by the way, fuck Rudy Gobert forever for
I
this
know.
shit, because he's not only did he close down the NBA with COVID, but then he did this deal, is just, I don't know, man. But I'm still confident in this team. Like I'm looking around, I'm going, who's a better favorite going to the finals, the Nets or the Suns?
Right. Like most people will say the Nets at this point, but the Nets haven't proven anything besides Katie carrying a bunch of scrubs to the Eastern Conference Finals and borderline almost making it to the finals. But like, who's to say
No,
that?
that was the second round. He even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You talking about the year where his foot was on the line?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was second round. They lost to the Bucks that year, and then the Bucks played Atlanta.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, and like I said a little before in the show, I'm like, who's to say that Kyrie doesn't play like 30, 40 games, because
Yeah,
of he's him. And then Ben Simmons as well, who's to say he doesn't act the same way? It's like there's a lot of question marks here. And, with Steve Nash's lack of coaching ability as well, I just don't like until the Nets show me something like I'm not fully bought in like everybody else. I know everybody wants to put the Nets as favorites because of the top three talent that's there, but I don't know. It's just not there for me. Um, oh shit. There you
Sorry,
go.
dude.
Oh
I'm
no, you're
back.
good.
No, I heard what you're saying, and yeah, I agree.
Man, yeah, I think Alma's cutting in and out. But so I guess from Gambo's thing. Oh, okay,
Sorry.
he's back. You good? Damn. Get on your computer, Alma, if you can. But so what Gambo said with the following tweet after the original was Mikal Bridges was never offered because no formal offer was ever made from Phoenix, nor was there a proposal made by the Nets. The Suns simply did not have have what Brooklyn wanted. We're told several times they did not. I don't have my glasses on. Did not have what it would take to get the deal done. So it looks like the Nets weren't even serious to begin with. They wanted the whole Gobert sort of spiel and package. I don't think that was realistic whatsoever. I don't know why Minnesota ruined everything for everybody, but I mean, so like I guess James Jones kind of figured this wasn't going to be a serious sort of conversation and all, and it dragged out to this point. But Amin, in your opinion, do you think James Jones has something up his sleeves before we get into possible targets we're going to go after?
Yeah, I do. I think I haven't done my research yet, but I'll say this. Like we have so many expiring contracts to lay out there for any team and first round picks to do something interesting. And if you were to look at the Suns and say, okay, because we didn't extend Cam Johnson. He was off. He could have been extended this off season. I think he still is eligible until December,
Right.
but there's a possibility that there's a trade there. I just I think James Jones is just waiting. He's really waiting to see what's available because there may be a point where you can swing a deal for uh who would be maybe a Jordan Poole, you know?
Mm,
Maybe you can swing a deal for Jordan Poole and get and move some contracts for them. Because Jordan Poole is on a $2.5 million contract this year. You know he's going to get something close to like 25 million next year, right?
right.
So and the Warriors are already under they're already paying the luxury tax. So it could be a move where, hey, we'll move a couple first round picks just for this guy, or maybe even one first round pick because we don't want to have to pay him. The Suns can rent him for half a season, right? And maybe but I don't see that happening because that's in the division and they're rivals.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of opportunities like that where you can find somebody. There's some players out there. Max Strus is another guy with the Miami Heat where he's under contract. I'm sure the Heat don't want to pay him unless they move Hero or Duncan Robinson. I think the bigger thing though that we got to look at is how do we reconcile our relationships with these players that were offered up in the trade.
That's a good question, and every professional athlete goes through this at one point. And it's you like you got to understand it's not personal, it's business. And if I was a NBA player and I was in talks of being traded for Kevin Durant, I would completely understand. I think just to go after a player like that, it's kind of like a once in a generation sort of opportunity. And like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I don't think the players will blame James Jones for having that mindset. I mean, he's doing his job. He's trying to get the team better and put it in a better position. Like at the end of the day, these guys are professionals, and they're just trying to do what's best for their team and just compete. But with guys like Jay Crowder, kind of sneak this in people. I mean, I think the talks go deeper. I think Jay might be on the move. I don't want to see him go unless we get like a nice piece back. But I mean, only time will tell with him. But I just don't know. But when it comes to just overall business to employee relationship within the NBA, it's relatively reconciled and it's usually understandable on both parts. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the only player Well, so there's 2 points I want to make. So the first one is the only player that I'm concerned about is DeAndre Ayton because there's a lot of three-way trades that you can still make to get Kevin Durant. So we'll have to see how he plays through January or February, whatever the date is. The other player is Jay Crowder, which you mentioned. And I mean, I think you have to move him because I mean, if you guys remember last year, I predicted that that Cam Johnson would be the starter for this team at power forward, and it never happened. Jay Crowder remained in that role, but then those like however many games it was, and we remember that New York game where he hit the buzzer beater, had 30 some points or whatever,
Yeah.
and he balled out within that week or week and a half, whatever it was. And if you start seeing Ish Wainwright backing up Cam Johnson, then Crowder's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
You know,
I like I see that completely, and what we've seen from Ish the last handful of games with summer league and at the end of the season. I mean, I think the talent's there, and he plays big. He moves quickly, and that corner three is really dropping at this point, and a little more consistent than Jay's, unfortunately. But you have Jay on your team for the just having veteran attributes in the locker room, and it helps push things forward. I mean, I can only imagine Jay and Chris Paul yelling at you.
well
Like
that it's that factor, and the other factor is that this guy has a green light, and if he can go 7 for 9 from three or 1 for 9 from three, but those
yeah,
shots are
exactly.
going up,
Come
and
on,
he's going
Joe.
to get the and ones. You know what I mean? And that's the difference is that you can't get that from Ish Wainwright. You can get it from Cam from a certain point where he's just the shots are going up no matter what, but he's just a better shooter and a taller player. So it's a different whole chemistry there. But like that's the one thing that you're losing with Jay. And like you mentioned, the veteran presence and like what he does on defense. And I'm like, is that really that important at this point? Like, how
Right.
important is that now? And
Yeah.
there is one other factor. There is a Jay Crowder. He's just a really good teammate in the fact that he's a connector. Like
Mhm.
when other guys can't get the ball to DeAndre Ayton, he's one of those guys that can throw it to him in the post or throw it over the top.
Yeah.
Not a lot of the other players are willing to like sacrifice an extra second to do that for him. But he is willing to do that for them. So, you give that up, but then I'm like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I feel like if you gave me a bingo card or if you gave me like a betting odds, I say Jay Crowder is the first guy that's going to get traded for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And well, like you said, like Jay, like what Jay brings, like his defense. I mean, it's pretty replaceable, but it's
Yeah.
just his overall chemistry with the team and like him finding bigs. Like he's a really good passer. I've never had an issue with just his basketball like IQ when it came to when plays unfold and he finds his open men, especially Da. I mean, the valley oop. I mean, like that was
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, he'll forever
Yeah.
go down for that. But if Jay doesn't want to be here, I mean, we gotta trade him, man. Like if it's now, if it's at the trade deadline in January, like we're trying to stay competitive. We don't need drama in the locker room. We don't need ill will and stuff. And Gambo also said in one of his tweets that Cam Johnson is kind of sneaking into the starting five, which we've been asking for. I don't think we've seen that. Have we seen that, Amit? I don't even know.
Only when there was injuries. That was the only time we saw it. I'm telling you, that 10-day period, and when he cooked the Knicks, that was, and then the games. I mean, he averaged like something like 19 points a game on like crazy 3-point shooting. And he was ball dominant too. Like he was running pick and rolls. He was doing a bunch of stuff. That was the only time we saw it. And I just wonder what that Cam Johnson is because like we see the Cam Johnson that just like catch and shoot or dunk on someone's head or close out and then like if we see another like that's why I always wondered like who is the more valuable player, Mikal or Cam? And I feel like the upside on Cam might be higher than what it is with Mikal.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Like I would say that too because we already know where like Mikhail's at. Like he like he can break through the glass a bit, but like Cam Johnson is just unlocking like some of the stuff like just out of nowhere. So I think his ceiling is a lot higher. Like you said, even last year, even going into last season, that Cam Johnson's ceiling is a lot higher, and I couldn't see it at the time, but like watching this last season and stuff, the potential and just the overall sneaky athleticism, as what Westfield says right here, like it's uncanny. Like he is really, really good. Uh, I miss
Yeah, I
seeing
mean, it like he like if you go back to the
the
finals,
mic.
right? If you go back to the finals, like Mikal played scared and Cam was not scared. Cam was dunking on PJ Tucker's head and making shots and making plays defensively
Right.
and offensively. Mikal, he would do what he can on defense given his like matchup, but it wasn't like the same as him like just locking down Luka or just doing the stuff that he normally does. So and again, it's like if he's guarding Giannis, it's different than if he's guarding Chris Middleton, and both those guys are really hard matchups. So I mean, like I think Mikal as like his peak, he's probably close to his peak right now. Um, but the thing is, you can take a chance and see what can Cam be, and maybe Cam, this is his peak. You don't know. It could be this is his peak where he's the best 3-point shooter in the league, starting, which I think right even at the end of this season, he was a starting power forward basically on any team in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you put him on the Lakers, you slide LeBron to the three,
Right.
easily. I mean, he's just a starting, and
He's
what kind of money does
starting
a
five
starting
regardless.
power?
Yeah.
What's that?
He's a starting five regardless
Yeah,
wherever
I
he
mean,
goes.
he's starting five, and so what kind of money does he deserve then? And Mikal's making a little bit over 20 million. Um, Da is making over. He's making like 33. Jay Crowder's
Mm-hmm.
making 9. Jay Crowder's a starting power forward in the NBA. He's making 9 million.
Uh, hold up, who's the best 3-point shooter in the league? Isn't it Cam Johnson statistically?
No, I think he like over the overall season. I think it was somebody else, but I know at the like
He was
he
like
had
top
like the
five.
second best or one of the best.
Yeah, yeah, definitely one of the best. I know when it came to overall efficiency, Cam Johnson was up there. I do
And he
remember.
shot over 42%.
Yeah, yeah, and like before All Star weekend, like it was a little bit higher too. Like it was up there. Um, Mom, I'm scared. Pick me up. This conversation is scary. But yeah. So let's get into where we go from here, because the KD is put to bed for now. At least the door is still cracked a little later on in the future. Now we can finally take a deep breath and look into our inevitable future. Like you said a little before, we're still a top team. I mean, there's no taking that away. Yeah, the Clippers are back healthy. The Nuggets are back healthy. Golden State is coming off a championship. Uh, you know,
But they lost a lot of players. They lost 3
but
wing players.
yeah, but they lost a lot of players, and with Jamal Murray being out for 2 seasons, the chemistry is going to be weird for a while. The Clippers, Kawhi is like the Clippers are a little bit better, but they have to incorporate John Wall into the starting and put Reggie Jackson back into running the bench and stuff. So things are going to be a little bit weird in the West going forward, but like we're still a top talent. I think the Grizzlies are going to draw back a bit, but like so our best options available. I do have some sort of categorized a bit. I say the most realistic right now is going after guys the following: Jordan Clarkson, Boyan, Jared Vanderbilt, and Harrison Barnes. Out of those names, like what appeals to you the most, Amit?
I like Jordan Clarkson the best. I don't know if he fits the best with this team, but so if you're going after Jordan Clarkson, that means you got to get rid of campaign. Like
Right,
that doesn't work. Like he can't be the guard in between those two guards, right?
right.
Between him and CP3. The other thing I thought was, can we get Schroeder? Because he's a free agent. He has not signed with anybody yet. Schroeder's available. Can you get Schroeder and put him in with campaign? And then if you put him in with campaign, then I think you got to move Shamit. because they're both like two-way guards. You know what I mean? Like they're not necessarily straight point guards, and Shamit would clog that up. So I'd get rid of Shamit and trying to get somebody else. Going back to the things that you tweeted about with Julius Randle, what if you package because okay, so let's say that New York does a deal and they trade out all their prospects to get Donovan Mitchell, right?
Right.
So they got to go get another guard. Even though they just signed Jalen Brunson, but maybe they want to go 3-guard lineup. This is thinking outside the box. So maybe we can package, because they're going to get rid of their whole bench just to get Donovan Mitchell. Maybe we can trade with them to get Julius Randle for I have not matched up the salaries yet, but let's just say Shamit, Campaign, and Saric, and a first rounder or something.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. I mean, with Randall, he's making I think 26 a year. So that's a little tough. And plus, I think he has 3 or 4 years on his contract, but I feel like the Knicks want to move off of him. And Julius, he's 27 years old now, and yeah, he had a relatively sort of bad season, but all of his seasons before 2020 are pretty consistent. So I think it's just under the Thibodeau system that kind of threw things off. But I think Clarkson is really appealing, but we got Dwayne Washington Jr. Obviously, they're not at the same level, but they play very similarly. So I think we can mold Dwayne into what we're looking for. Of course, I would love Jordan Clarkson, and if we get him, I'm not gonna complain. But we would have to ship out Campaign and some other pieces. And reminder, we own all of our picks, so I think we have 5, 6 that are available, and Danny Ainge thrives off of those picks. So we can end up just sending one player with a handful of picks and get some good stuff back. With Boyan, I mean, he's a dude that can create his own shot. He's really not that good on defense, but Duke can shoot from practically anywhere, and he's pretty dangerous. You have to keep your eye out on him. But if we can get Clarkson and him together, I'm willing to send out a couple players along with some picks to get those guys. Yeah. But a guy like Harrison Barnes is a good replacement for Jay Crowder. He can shoot the three a little more consistently, and his defense is subpar. It's above average. Like Jay. I think the defense is kind of the same level, but I think Harrison Barnes. I think he's less drama. And
yeah, but he's too much salary. The problem is you can get the same thing from Cam Johnson. Is that not offensively, because Harrison Barnes is a much more polished player on offense, but you can't if you're gonna trade away Jay, you cannot get him back and think that okay, it's gonna work with Cam Johnson. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the thing, So if we're really looking for a power forward, would you consider Melo?
He's the end of bench guy. Yeah, he's not playing any minutes for me that matter. He's Langston Galloway type player.
If we get a nice piece to go along with the bench and have a third scoring option, or just a fourth scoring option for the bench unit. I mean, I think our bench goes back to, our finals year. Our bench was so dominant and just kind of ran teams out the gym that our starting five didn't really have to do much. But I think Melo can contribute. I mean, when he went to Portland and was coming off the bench, I mean, he was really solid. And the Lakers, I don't think, have used him properly. So I do see some, I still see, potential in him. And him and Chris Paul, they're practically best friends too. So
that's true. I just don't see if it fits in the 0.5, what is he going to do in the 0.5? He's going to be a standalone shooter. And then he doesn't play defense, which is part of the program that Monty's put together. So, I mean, the guys that get away with not playing defense in this system are guys like Dario and Chris Paul even though he played defense the first year, but he's declined now going into year 3, and it's not going to be as good. And who else doesn't play defense in this? Langston Galloway was not very good. I mean, there's guys, all right, like there's only limited time for guys that don't play defense in this system,
Right. Like,
especially at
yeah,
a power forward position. That's a critical position.
it is. It's playing alongside of DA. You got to know where you're moving. You're not in the way, and you got to clog the passing lanes. I mean,
And you're going to get switched off. Like they're going to
yeah,
target you and
a
switch you
ton,
off.
a ton. Yeah, exactly. So to replace Jay, it's going to be tricky. He knows the system inside out. But if we're wanting to change some things around, I mean, I think Jared Vanderbilt will be a nice addition. The dude is a rebounding machine, and he's pretty good when it comes to working in the paint offensively. What do you think about Vanderbilt possibly coming?
Uh, what would you have to give up for him, though? I feel like he's too
Not a
much of an
lot.
asset. You don't think so?
No,
Okay. I mean,
like he's not shooting in like 10 feet out. Like he's
I
very
mean,
limited on offense. But I think
can you
that's what
put together a package of like second round picks and maybe what's his salary?
I can look it up real quick.
I mean, do you think like it could be second round picks and maybe, and this is like such a Laker like thought, like, oh, maybe we should trade our worst player. Can we trade Torrey Craig and second round picks for this guy?
Yeah, I think so. So it says Jared Vanderbilt signed a 3-year, $13 million contract with Minnesota, including, uh, dude, like his whole contract is guaranteed. Jesus Christ, and annual's average salary of 4 million, 4.3. So okay, so
I mean, do you think Minnesota's all in at this point? Like Minnesota is like, this is what we're doing. I don't know
yeah.
if they can really make moves around the margin until, halfway through the season to see what works. But
Well, Vanderbilt is in Utah now. He was part of that
oh,
trade.
sorry. Yeah, okay. So he got traded. Yeah, he got traded to Utah. I
Yeah.
mean, I Danny Ainge he wants one thing, dude, and that's like picks
Yeah.
from teams that are not protected that are going to fail. And so the Suns, I'm praying that they're not going to be a lottery team this year. That would be disastrous in every which way possible.
Hmm.
But when he took those Brooklyn picks unprotected, he knew what he was doing because he traded a bunch of bums to them, right? Or not bums, but just guys that were washed at that point. So, and even when it did, so I mean, the Boston dealing with Danny Ainge is different because like he the way he fleeced Minnesota and what he's expecting, I don't think it's going to work with what the Suns want to do. I think James Jones is too smart to let that happen. I think he's willing to give up some first round stuff to make it work, like maybe one first rounder for Jordan Clarkson and expiring, but he's not going to do anything more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think James Jones is a little smarter than that. I don't think he wants to, give up all of his assets to get, these, just these glorified role players in a sense. I mean, I don't know if they're glorified, but what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But so let's move into like possible sort of guys we can get into. Julius Randle, we already touched on him a bit. The dude is a bull in a china shop, very aggressive. If he can create his own shot, but he does throw up a lot of bullshit, and he's expensive. So I mean, we can put a pin in him. Like if he comes, I'm not going to complain, but Montrezl Harrell. I mean, he's dealing with legal issues right now. We don't need to touch into that, but dude's great. I love Montrezl Harrell. Then Dennis Schroeder. I mean, if we really are in desperate need of a backup point guard, and Dennis Schroeder's best season was with Chris Paul, and then if we bring in a guy like Dennis to run the bench unit, Dennis knows how to find big men. Uh, he and Steven Adams were basically like this for a hot minute. So out of those names, like what appeals to you the most and how to deal with that?
I think Schroeder. I keep going back to Schroeder because I think um, if anything happens to Chris Paul and you need a starting point guard, you got Schroeder and then your backups campaign. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like so my my concern is always going to be Chris Paul at this point. Like what I've seen over the last 2 years, going to year 3 with Chris Paul, we need to make sure that we do not drop off at that position because it just matters too much. You can get these games where campaign will drop 25 and 10 in a Western Conference Finals, or you can get Booker dropping a triple double. But the end of the day, like that for an entire like 7 game series, you're going to need some production at that position that threatens the other team to leave Da open or leave J open or leave McHill open. Like we need a threat, another ball handler. So I'm just going to say Schroeder, and if you can make it work with Schroeder and um, Campaign and Shamit, those 3 guys, and now you added um, Koji and what was the other guy that they added?
Landell,
Yeah, no, the backcourt in the backcourt.
uh, Damian Lee.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah,
Now you added all these guys. Like, how do you make it work with them? So, that's Monty's problem to figure out. But I think some of these guys are specialists. Like I think Koji and Lee are more like 3-and-D specialists. So you put them out there for like certain positions. But like I don't know. Like I think Shamit has to be moved if you bring in Schroeder,
yeah,
and that's
like
exciting. That's exciting because you can package Shamit and his contract with a Saric or a Campaign or with a Jay Crowder. I think there's one other expiring contract, or with like a Torrey Craig, or even uh, Bismack, if you
mhm.
find the right deal to get the right big, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like I keep on going back to Schroeder, just like you said, like he's by far the best backup point guard we can get outside of Eric Gordon. And like he already has continuity with Chris Paul. And let's say Chris Paul was to go down, I think Dennis Schroeder can hold his own and facilitate like he needs to. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to big guys, I mean LaMarcus Aldridge is still out there. I mean he might
No
possibly
thanks.
not. Be
No
there.
thanks.
But it is interesting. I do keep on going back to Dennis Schroeder because like even though we got a little beef with him from the Lakers series, like I still think he's a pretty complete player. I like he has a nice little midi, exactly what we run. I think he can fit this 0.5 really well. And who's to say great coaching from Monty isn't going to unlock another side of Dennis Schroeder? It's something that he hasn't gotten, uh, before in his career. So yeah, that's definitely a guy that I'm eyeballing, and I'm hoping James Jones can at least grab him. If he grabs Dennis and everything stops after that, I say like we're okay. Like am I like am I in the right like headspace when I say that on it?
No, I mean, look, like you cannot. That's a talented player that was trying to get. He declined a 4-year, $84 million deal from the Lakers
Yeah.
to just test his own free agency. You're talking about, um, you know, he's a Super Six guy, Super Six man. Um, so if you can add him to the team, you have to do it. But the chemistry on this team is going to change big time if you do that.
Yeah.
And that's where Monty and James Jones and the rest of the coaching staff and front office have to figure out how do we make it work after that. But I think that's the deal you make, because even if you did the Kevin Durant deal, the same problem, you have the same problem, right?
Exactly.
Like you're trading away like core players to make this world deal work, and you're losing on defense and hustle and some other things. So either way, like at this point, like something has to change for this team, because you know I think we're all sour on what happened in that Maverick series. It took me a long time to get over that, and
I'm not
I'm
over
still
it.
not fully over it because if we would have lost because of injury or something else,
That's different.
there's all these excuses like COVID and shit. Like, I don't care, man. We're better than them. We were better than that team. So, in the finals, it was, we heard about the injuries afterwards, but Giannis really just destroyed us.
Yeah.
And the play calling, or I should say the foul calling, that he
Awesome.
got was like
Yeah.
insane. Like DeAndre didn't have no idea how to play him defensively, and got him in foul trouble, and it shook us. So I just think like we won 64 games. We're bringing back a really strong core that's still developing. We haven't even seen the best of Booker yet. We
Which is
don't even know what that is yet. When you watch his highlights, I'm just like, where was that guy like last year? Like some of the highlights from like 2019, I'm like, he was just fucking free balling. He was just like doing whatever he wanted.
he was buying.
But he's running the system now where he doesn't do that shit anymore. And I'm like, I just want to see that guy again.
Yeah. Like I'm hoping Chris Paul takes a few steps back when it comes to just overall importance. Of course, we still want him to facilitate and him doing what's best, but like what's been driving us Suns fans crazy is not getting Da involved, and we need to do that the whole season, not just at small little windows like in the Pelican series or a couple times even last year during the playoffs. So,
And he
yeah, like,
needs to really be conditioned too, like to play. Because like I don't know what his conditioning is, but it seems like he doesn't want the ball because maybe he's tired or maybe he's resting because what he's doing on defense. And we need to see the full package from him this year. Like we need to see that what we saw from Booker last year on offense and defense. We need to see that from him this year.
we need to see a jump this year in offensive efficiency and usage. I mean, that comes down to not only him but the team as well. And Booker needs to be better with finding Da too, because he's not like it's either he's not doing it or he's not good at finding him, and he's worried about what he's doing. So like I'm hoping Da and Chris Paul, Da and Booker are the 1 and 2, and Chris Paul can just do Chris Paul things, what he's best at, and bringing in a guy like Dennis Schroeder is a big improvement from campaign. I think everybody will agree with that. A lot more consistent offensively when it comes to shooting and distribution, and I think we get a lot less bad plays from Dennis Schroeder because the last thing he wants to do is fuck up. So let's go into the long shot sort of player we can go after. It came out today that what Gambo said is that a few teams are eyeballing Donovan Mitchell, the Lakers, Miami. Miami later on said that they're not interested, and a couple of other teams. You think Phoenix should at least try, because the Lakers don't really have any assets. I mean, they can send players, but I don't think Danny Ainge wants players back. I mean, we have the picks, we have expiring contracts, we have some pretty decent players. You think it's a long shot to go after Donovan Mitchell? Because imagine Chris
Well,
Paul, Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and then Mikal and Da. I mean,
I think it'd have to be a multiplayer trade with Chris Paul have to be included in that trade because how do you play those three guys together? I don't think it works. But even going beyond that, like thinking about Danny Ainge and his how he's done his picks, he'd rather do a deal with the Lakers because he's going to ask for unprotected picks. So
yeah,
if he's going to take picks from the Suns that are unprotected, which means like late first round picks or potential lottery picks with the Lakers,
right.
I would rather deal with the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like logically, it makes more sense to deal with the Lakers, and plus, you're also making them a lot worse and a lot more tight to deal anything. So
And then on top of that, I don't think the Laker deal is even feasible because their picks are like 27 and 29. They traded all their draft picks for Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
So they don't have anything current to give up. The Suns have only current picks, but they're late round first picks.
Yeah, so it's tricky. Like Danny Ainge, he loves picks, but he's very particular about his picks, especially unprotected ones. But I think the Suns should at least dabble in the conversations a bit just to see, because I mean, if everybody's free game, I mean, might as well see, especially if we're gonna look into Bogan and Clarkson and Vanderbilt. If we're looking at those guys, might as well look at Donovan just to see what's going on. But besides that, dude, like, what was your reaction to seeing the Hardwood Classic '93 jerseys coming back?
Yes. I mean, we were texting each other on that. I am like I've been dying for these. So it's funny because like I always thought like back in the day when I was a kid, like you couldn't buy jerseys. It wasn't like as available as it is now. So like to see that jersey
Right.
available and I can get a Booker jersey or whoever I want, right? Um I mean with the old school Nike jersey, not the new Nike jersey, but the old school Nike jersey on there.
Spelt out
I'm just
Nike. Also,
and the shorts is the one thing I always wanted was the shorts. I
mm,
looked everywhere in China, everywhere I could get those shorts. They're not available. So the fact that I can get that jersey and those shorts, I'm getting them. I showed my son the video. And he's like, "Yeah, I wanted Booker jersey too," because I told him I'm getting it, and he's like, "I want one too." I'm like, "Well, you're gonna get mine." Like when you grow up, I'm not spending $180 on two jerseys when you're gonna outgrow it. But no, I mean, it's fire, bro. It's fire. So I'm assuming that replaces the which jerseys are replaced? The white one?
uh,
Or is that
so so the Valley jerseys are done, but
the jerseys
the
are done?
yeah, they're done. Yeah.
Oh shit.
So I think we might be able to bring them back in a couple years, but I don't know, it's some weird contract thing. But so the Valley ones are done, and then with these classic ones, we can only have them for a year because of some contract stuff as well. So like you see the Pistons with their teal, and Detroit or yeah, the
Yeah.
Pistons with their teal, and then the other teams that are bringing back their classics. They're only able to have those for a year, and then you have to wait a certain period after to bring it back. So, but with this launch, I saw on Twitter before we got on here that on the NBA store website, there was like a coach. Sort of like sweater, with like the tiny little turtleneck, the zip right here, and it had a
Mhm.
blue sun logo, and that's probably that bomb pop jersey that we're going to be getting soon. So that might be one of the first pieces of merch that we get. But we're getting like new unis like going forward, which I'm excited to see. But yeah, dude, like this. Well, the promotional thing alone. I mean, the "He's on Fire" name comes from NBA's
Yeah.
Jam, dude. I mean, like, like that's our brand. And for Da to rep it, and the media team to put together that nice video, and him repping the jersey, and now we know we're not going to trade him like right after we put out the promotional video for a new jersey like we did with Kelly Oubre. Now, like,
Yeah,
not only
exactly, right? We that's guaranteed. We're not going to trade him now.
so he's gonna till January 15th. So like we have this sick ass jersey, and mass consensus on Twitter is that like yes, like this jersey is it. Then with the shorts as well, I'm definitely gonna get the shorts. And then when we were texting, like I saw the warm ups, and I'm like, we need to see those warm ups, and I'll definitely get the the top part. I'll get the sweater warm up if that becomes available as well.
That would be so sick. I don't think we'll see that. I know was it you or Jay whoever said like we should get those too?
Yeah.
Um yeah, man, I would love that starter jacket. I would rock that thing every day if I could.
The Sony said the classic ones though are they going to be purple, white, and black?
No,
Um,
just a purple. We're only getting purple.
yeah, yeah. It's one purple. Then we get another black jersey. It's Phoenix with like a little orange tint in it, and then those bomb pop ones. Um, like I want to see the court that comes along with these blue jerseys. I think it might be dope, and it gives a different little taste in the Suns, catalog and history. Like when people are looking back on the Suns, they're going to fall in these jerseys and be like, "What the hell are these?" And we might actually like them, and who's to say we don't win a championship in them? So, like,
I
only
mean, it's going
time,
to be 30 years. It's a 30-year anniversary from this team going to the finals. So hopefully
yeah,
we're going back there.
right. I mean, like, yeah, that's like money at that point. But besides that, did you want to address anything before we get out of here?
No, man, I think I'm good. I know we're going to do an after dark at some point, talk about Prey, talk about
Yep.
some other things that we have not talked about yet. No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining today's. Yeah, it was kind of a bummer day. Katie, doing Katie things. He did the most Katie thing possible, but and we're moving forward. We didn't have to wait until training camp, and now we can just move along and look at pieces going forward and possibly improve this team. But again, thank you for everybody for joining. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm Jay Boldy, and then Unsustainable Amit on Twitter as well, and then Coach Evan B on Twitter as well. And then you can listen to the podcast on here, on YouTube, or on Facebook, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. But if y'all have any questions or anything, you can always tweet at us, message us directly. We appreciate the fan interaction and stuff, and I look forward to this season. It's like it's going to be not the same going in because we could have possibly had Kevin Durant, but again, we didn't lose Kevin Durant to anybody, and who's to say that the Nets won't crumble down again? And the door isn't closed, but it's essentially closed for now. Hopefully, incorporating Cam Johnson into the starting lineup will enhance things. And just if we pick up some other pieces like a Jordan Clarkson or a Boyan, like it'll definitely improve this team. As long as we improve in some aspects, I'm totally on board with it. But again, thank you everybody for joining it. Joining Sonia, thank you so much. Westville, thank you. Ruben, thank you for stopping in. Mike, like we need to talk about some Chicago stuff. Like, are you still in with Justin Fields and all of that? We need to get into that. But shout out Roy. Thanks for stopping in. Gabriel, Joe from the Cardinal Rule. If you're a Cardinals fan, check out the Cardinal Rule on YouTube. He puts out really good content. And yeah, and thank you, Iverson, for joining as well. And then everybody else. Thank you. And, we'll talk later. So have a good night, everybody. Stay safe and, be respectful. All right. Have a good night, everybody.